Greetings, everyone. Let me say peace, love, light to you all, and I'll say welcome, welcome to you all. May all be well with you, your loved ones, and anything that you aspire to be and or working on in life. With that being said, I want to cover the I want to cover the game of Monopoly in jurisdiction, establishing jurisdiction through the corporations. Corporations are entities that operate under the disguise of a country, of a town, of a government. Now, I want to read something, and this is from the CSIS, um, Center for Strategic and International Studies. And this article is September 8, 2021. Land grabbing. When a government, company, or other entity purchases large swaths of land in another country, can affect local land rights and agricultural production, sometimes putting local food security at risk. While such purchases in low and middle income countries have been covered extensively, they also happen here in the United States. Foreign ownership of U.S. agricultural land doubled from 2009 to 2019. According to U.S. Department of Agriculture (USDA) records, and policymakers have become increasingly concerned about foreign control of the U.S. food supply. Now, before I go any further, I want to clarify with this fact: the United States is a federal corporation, okay, that is on Dun and Bradstreet list, okay, and by their very own law, I believe it's 18 or 28 USC 3002 15A. It tells you the United States is a federal corporation. Now, if you understand what a about businesses and investors in a business, when you own a business and you have multiple investors in that business, those investors now own a small percentage or a major percentage of your business. So you are no longer sole owner of said business. I'm saying that to say this: there is no United States of America. There never was. All of that has always been an illusion. An illusion due to the fact that the United States Corporation, okay, the United States Corporation in totality is a conglomerate of foreign investors, freeholders, men and women who you label as elitist class people, whom have come together to purchase millions of acres of land and then come together and formulate what is called the United Nations. That is their union. Like how the police has the Fraternal Order of Police, which is the biggest and largest union there is in what they're calling the United States. right? Or in America, the Fraternal Order of Police, big union. What that is many individual officers who are um, who are private businesses operating in the public. They come together and they create a union, and that union then becomes what is called the Fraternal Order of Police, which is also established by what is called uh, your police department, right? Or falls underneath a municipality or a state. Okay. With that being said, when all these foreign investors and foreign folks come together because they all stole, it's a land grab, meaning that they're stealing land from the original indigenous people because the original indigenous people don't know who they are. So these people are coming and they're claiming eminent domain. And you have a falsified corporate government that established or claimed jurisdiction through acquiescence of the original indigenous people of this land. Acquiescence means that you stayed silent while another man set up a governmental establishment or corporate establishment and then just started snatching up lands and created what is now called the United States of America Federal Corporation, which is a business. And all these folks came together and formulated this corporation. Then they created bylaws and policies and different subgroups, subsidiaries called states, cities, municipalities, and townships. And all of these, when you go and look in their records, they're listed as incorporated. Reason why I'm saying this, I want to point out something to y'all. Let's go down to the second part. Q1. Where and why are foreign entities purchasing farmland in the United States? USDA records provide the best source of information and foreign held agricultural land, although they are still incomplete and contain many errors. Uh, as explained in A3 below. According to USDA data, foreign investors owned at least 35.2 million acres of U.S. agricultural land in 2019. That's just 2019. 2.7% of U.S. farmland are area almost the size of Iowa, while foreign land ownership has been reported in all 50 states. Pay attention. And Puerto Rico, the holdings are concentrated in particular states. The greatest shares is in Texas with over 4.4 million acres, followed by Maine, 3.3 million acres, and Alabama, 1.8 million acres. Over 40% of the additional 3.4 million acres acquired by foreign investors in 2019 was so located in Texas, Oklahoma, and Colorado. Canadian investors hold the largest share of this land at 29%, with the Netherlands, Italy, Germany, and the United Kingdom collectively owning another 33%. The remaining 38% is held by entities from almost 100 other countries. When you go into those countries that was listed and then into the 100 other countries, and you go into the countries who are part of the United Nations, you're going to see that all of those countries are a part of the United Nations. Okay? Then you're going to see that all of those countries have subsidiaries, corporations that are part of the Vanguard group. That is being, the assets are being managed by the Vanguard group. Okay? Why is this important? The illusion of war and the illusion that China and the United States are enemies, that is an illusion. The illusion that China, Russia, and the United States are enemies, that is an illusion. The illusion that China, Russia, the United States, the Britain, Germany, okay, uh, um, what is it called? Kuwait, Tehran are enemies. Those are illusions. For all of these countries combined together own land in what you call the United States of America. My enemy can't own land in my backyard. And they just don't own any land. They own agricultural land. So when there's a food shortage, when there's a crisis going on with the food, when there's a poisoning of the food supply, when these things are happening, these people that you are taught through school, through all these old documentaries and war stories, that these are your enemies. And remember, you dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and all of this type of stuff. And these are the same people that today owns hundreds of millions of acres of land. Here, all throughout the Americas. This is why you could have the Jamaica Prime Minister tell you that he's going to write up a bill where the government can claim all natural resources on anybody's land, whether that be a tree, a bird, a fly, a piece of shit. This is we're heading into the era where you are to own nothing while they control everything. You are to own nothing while they control everything and push the illusion that these people are enemies of theirs when they are business partners. They've come together to acquire a conglomerate of land. And when they're able to acquire a conglomerate of land, they can now come together on any groups like the Vanguard group and establish and set up and file for jurisdiction. Meaning now they can bring in their own governing body and govern you, who's always been here before these people, and now they can govern you and make you citizens and wards of their states. China bought up 300 acres of farmland in Iowa. China, in Iowa. China owned multiple hotels in the United States. Millions of acres of land. And it is rumored that they bought Ellis Island and it's being hush hush. Now, none of these sales of these lands by any of these people throughout history are legal sales or lawful sales, because the folks who sold these lands to these folks are not the original owners. You, the people who they started labeling as Negro, Black, and African American, are. And while you are still panning to the Afrocentric identity, yeah, the biggest trick the devil ever pulled on you was make you think that you came from somewhere else when they took you from here and brought you somewhere else. That is the greatest trick. It's like a West Indian celebrating the West Indian Day parade one day out the year and then go the next day and saying that they're African descent. Do you know what an Indian is? An Indian is not African descent. Do you understand? So when you give up your identity, when you give up your nationality, you fall now underneath the jurisdiction of these corporations that are buying up all of these lands. and you now become wards of them, meaning that you literally become property for these corporations. This is why the Chinese and the Mexicans and them look down on you so much, because they understand that Mexico has bought up a whole bunch of land here in North America. The Chinese, they understand that their fellow countrymen and women through their major corporations has also been buying up all these lands throughout the Americas. The Arabs, they understand this. You don't understand this. You're too busy looking at all these rappers flossing chains and all this and all that, while everything is being sold out right from underneath you, because they claimed eminent domain, because you won't claim your shit. And then you will look at an Asian and say, "Oh, that's the Indian." That Asian is not the Indian. That Asian ran away when they were on the attack in the 13 and 1400s over there in those Asiatic countries, uh, in the Eastern Hemisphere, and ran over here to the West for refuge. And then what they did is like what's going on right now. They teamed with their Eastern counterparts, brethren from over the other side of the world, to push you out. And now they're claiming all these lands. Now let's not look at it now from that indigenous standpoint now, right? Let's look at it now from a humanity overall standpoint, against humanity versus corporations. The corporations have to make you think that there are all these enemies out there for you, but the corporation has the most to gain. Because while you're stuck in the mindset of fear, while you're stuck in the mindset of, well, damn, another war is coming, oh, another terrorist attack is coming, you're giving up your rights each and every single day. You're also giving up your land rights. And they're snatching them, snatching them, snatching them, snatching them. Me now, if China owns 300 acres of land alone, farmland alone in Iowa, and they decide, fuck that, I don't want to make this shit a farm anymore. I want to build a town. This is how you got your Chinatown established, right? Even with the Italians, how they got their little Italy, how you got your little Mexico, and all these different little places. This is how these places become established, because all those businessmen bought up they structured this. They went into communities and say, hey, we're going to buy a house here, buy a house there. Matter of fact, let's buy this whole block. Let's have their politicians make these neighborhoods become run down. Okay, this neighborhood, the riots, the Philly riots, the riots out there that happened in Jersey in the 60s, that were parts of Newark and Irvington, still ain't recovered yet. East Orange still ain't recovered yet. Right? Where these neighborhoods were neighborhoods where celebrities was living in. This is what they do. And then they come in and they swoop in and they buy up everything after the property value done diminished. This is the dirty aspect of this. And then all those foreign businessmen come together, and then they come together with countries that you believe that they're at war with. They're not at war. They make you think that they're at war, but they're not at war. While you're on the battlefield, boom, 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 shooting down Ahmed, and Ahmed is shooting you down. The Sultan or their president is in the boardroom with the leaders of the countries that they're warring with, and they're brokering business deals and partnerships while you're still on the battlefield going boom, 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 shooting each other down. And they're making money off of your bodies. When your blood is being soaked in the land. This is how the corporations establish jurisdiction. It's not one man buy up a whole thing and whoop, want to apply for jurisdiction. Nah, that one man teams up with a conglomerate of other billionaires, and they come together and they have shared interest in these lands. And then they apply or claim jurisdiction, and then set up an establishment called a government or a governing body. Watch how you let foreign folks come on your land and operate. You let them come on your land and you let them operate too freely. You know these politicians, majority of them are very corrupt, but you turn the blind eye because you idolize and worship these folks. And while you're doing that, you're digging yourself a grave. But what I realized though with some of the folks of the older generation, or some of the folks even of this generation, they're not thinking for the next generation. They're thinking, well, I'm not taking none of this with me when I die. This is what some of y'all say. Or some of y'all say, well, what am I supposed to do? Huh? What am I supposed to? I'm not gonna. What if I'm not here tomorrow? Or what about your children and their children's children? What are you talking about? So that means you just sit back and let shit just happen. So you're thinking only for self. You're not even thinking about your loved ones, right? Like folks, man, it's need to understand what's going on here. And by the time you fully realize what has been going on or what has happened, for like some of us don't have time to wait for y'all, for the others who are lagging behind to try to play catch up. You understand? Because that means now we have to dummy ourselves down and slow down at the pace we are of acquiring knowledge to wait for you. That means the progress that we've made and could make even more progress, we're going to be at a decline with it. We're going to regress. We can't afford to do that. A lot of this is common sense. And until you break the chain of ignorance to conceive plain common sense. I'm not a religious man. I'm a spiritual man. Religious people are followers. A man or a woman goes behind a pew pit or a pew on the pew. They say a few words, you follow. You're sheep. Spiritual people, true spiritual people are not followers. You understand? You can't just come and tell me something that this book said this and I don't question you. And I just blindly follow you through blind faith. Nagasa. I will never do that. I will never blindly follow someone through just blind faith. I will never do that. I would have to ask questions. I would have to ask, show me the proof. Let me investigate. Let me do my own research. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but let me do my. And most religious people don't do that. They say, well, pastor said, well, the imam said, well, the honorable most so-and-so said. But what do you say? What do you see? And the fact that we have this sheep-based mentality and this cowardice mentality. Well, let me not say we, because I'm not a coward. That there are those out there that has this sheep-based mentality and this cowardice mentality. The fact that there are people out there like that, and more of them, more sheeps than they are wolves. But I guess that's nature. You understand? I guess that's nature. The prey shall always outnumber the predator so that the predator can always have a good amount to eat whenever he or she's hungry. I guess that's nature. But at some point, you're going to have to wake up to understand how jurisdiction on many different levels is being established right now on you. This is why they have CCTV now here, out in broad daylight, out in the public right now. CCTV, we used to CCTV back in the day for us was called what? Big Brother, and we always knew it as something that went on only in England. You understand? You leave out through the front door of your house in a mask in Brooklyn, and you end up all the way down in Pittsburgh. And they could track you from the moment you left your house in that mask. They haven't seen your face. From the moment you left the house in your mask to the point of entry into Pittsburgh to wherever address you ended up going and see when you took that mask off and know it's you. This is why they've been pushing the real ID, facial recognition and all of this stuff. You walk through Walmart's now, Walmart's cameras are recording your voice and taking your biometrics. You don't believe me? Go look it up. A lot of these big box stores, this is what their cameras are doing now. They're stealing your facial recognition. That's dangerous. So if they have your voice in record, they can just track you and know who you are just by your voice alone. Anywhere you are in the world and you open up your mouth and talk. That's why New York State, New York City turned their street cameras to run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's picking up all of that. And these are foreign entities that has pushed for this because they've gained that much power. They've gained that much power in the political structure. They've gained that more power. Today I came home and I saw some business cards stuck in my mailbox. And I saw the cell number on there and I texted and said, this is a notice of trespass. Do not trespass on my property or litter on my property. You do not have the permission of the owner of said property to come here, nor is this property for sale. Now, mind you, when I left my house, these folks is parked up in front of the house because they're the realtors for the house across the street from my house. But before I left my house, went in my basement, worked out for an hour, came back, sat on my step for like 15 minutes to cool down before I went inside to go take a shower. This lady and this man has been in that car the whole time. They see me, they ain't say nothing. I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna show you guys something. And when I leave and come back and see these business cards stuck up on there. Now these were two Mexican men and women who, because the Mexicans have been buying up a lot of houses throughout my community now. And the mayor in my community has been giving them the green light to do so. Okay, and this is a Negro mayor that does bullshit walkthroughs the community. They avoid my house every time they walk through in the neighborhood and they see my house and they see me outside. They don't even look in my direction because I dealt with them already. I know what they're doing. Not because you see a nigga in a suit don't mean that he's for you. Right? So these people sat in that car for a long time and seen me. And they wait till I left to come put up their business cards on my right in between my mailbox. So I text them, don't trespass back on my property. I'm not going to like the results if I ever come and catch you trespassing on my property. Right? They don't want to talk to you. And I feel like the reason why they avoided me is because they can't believe that it's a Negro that owns that house. And their complexion is not too far from mine. These are Mexicans. And the house that's up for sale that they're trying to sell, a lot of our people, Indians identified as Negroes and African American now today, went to go seek to purchase that and they turned them away. And majority of the house viewings that has happened in that house has been nothing but Mexican folks. Get up in the morning before the recycles go out, and you see families of Mexicans going through your recycle bins. It wasn't like that last year, and it wasn't like that year before last. So Joe Biden knew what he was doing when he opened up the borders and flooded that shit. He knew what he was doing. But he made it way more easier for these because they're coming into our communities and their job is to push us out. And if you watch the programming of these television shows, They're showing you to be more and more the bottom feeder. They don't show you raising a family with another melanated person anymore. Even in the cartoons, I was watching, what is it called? Uh the that new TV series, I think it's on Prime. The Order of the Rings or something like that. And majority of the couples that's in there are biracial relationships. And this is going to lead me to go speaking on the the occultic folks, or the one of the oldest and longest running societies called the Purifiers. Okay, but we will save that for another time. The Purifiers. Never forget that name, because this goes into the Nazi Germany. This goes into, well, what you're calling the Trail of Tears. This goes into the shipment of people from the Americas down into Africa, establishing what's called Liberia and Sierra Leone. This goes into all that. This is how long the purifiers have been around. These are the people that controls these organizations, these corporations, that owns majority shares in the United States Federal Corporation. Wake up, people. The more land they buy, is more jurisdiction they can establish. The more land you allow them to have, you should make it where foreign entities cannot come in and own no type of land on in your country. No foreign entity should be able to come and own land unless they are indigenous from the land. If they are not indigenous, if they don't have the blood of the original indigenous people of the land, they cannot own property, which is why you see them pushing the biracial relationships throughout now. Look at TV. This is this. I'm watching the Fellowship of the Ring, something like that it's called, and they showed two hobbits, Negro hobbits, but the daughter is pale as shit. Then they showed a Negro elf on a Caucasian woman. Then they showed a Negro dwarf and a Caucasian dwarf. It doesn't get more plain in your face like that. It's in your face. It's what they call purifying the races. They have to get rid of or thin out the Negro blood as much as they can, while holding a lot of its substances for healing and genetic memory. This is how deep the game of Monopoly is. Because he who controls the land, especially the food, controls the resources. He who controls the resources can dictate what kind of medical facilities and all these things, and what the education system should be in the schools, and so on and so. Pay attention.